just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other. Welcome, Coach. How are we doing today?
Welcome. I am doing well and excited to dive in here and get some perspective and I was going to say forced. What I'm referring to is an intentional zoom out for the time that we record here. So it's interesting how we put this in. It changed the time a little bit when we're recording, which kind of gives it a different look, a different feel. I find, if I do something at a certain time of the day, it's like here nor there, where at that time it is, oftentimes in the day. But if I'm used to doing it and then I change it, then I can feel the difference. And so I'd like to get your thoughts on that, like in terms of, not all time is equal. And if we put something in the calendar or we do something that's outside of business at the same time of day, what value is there from moving it around and observe it and analyzing it? And what examples pop up for you as you hear that share?
Yeah, as we know, we're creatures of habit, creatures of pattern. And so we like when things are consistent because we get used to them and they're predictable. The first thing that jumps to my mind is my college baseball playing career, is that our conference games were on weekends. So it ended up being like early March to late April. Every single weekend was a routine. Wake up at this time, report to the clubhouse at this time, go to the field here, take batting practice at this time. And you get into this rhythm. But as you may or may not know, with the baseball season in college, those spring months the weather is hard to come by. You jam as many games as possible into that calendar between March and April. So you have weekday games. And so it's during when class is, or it's a 3 p.m. start, or it's just a total change where you might have something else going on during the day before you even think about your baseball or, what you got to do that day. So that's the first thing that came to my mind is being shaken loose from that routine. And then you asked, like, what's the value of that? As I think it begs you to be more, to re-engage with the consciousness of that event. So if I have a 3 p.m. weekday game, I'm not just running through the motions. I'm being really conscious of how I want to show up, how I want to prepare. And I have to think of it in a different way than as if I were to know that I'm going to wake up at this time, I'm going to report here at this time and report here at this time. So it forces me to apply a patterned behavior to a non-patterned situation, and then maybe even adjust on the fly to what might serve me even better with this new situation.
Totally. And I think it also gives you more resilience and flexibility when it comes to new situations as well. I mean, it pays for that one, but it also pays for others, right? It's like allows you to show up in whatever a situation is with just a baseline level of certainty. So this is how you can take a specific outcome in a specific area and apply it to other places. That is why, and I want to dovetail this into decision making in a second. That is why that experience is experience. I think there's a quote in a movie. God, what is it? It's like, so you consider that experience? Like, well, no, I consider experience, right? And I think it's an Avengers movie. It's if we're talking about something completely different, we're talking about sport, but that applies that experience and the resilience you build up from moving things around and getting pulled out of the routine, shaken loose, as you put it. Then you take that to a business setting. You still take the experience of what it feels like to be shaken loose, and even if the thing that you're doing is different, you have experience in that area. And I don't think most people think of it like that. And it's a brand new thing. I don't know what it is. Everything's new. It's like there's going to be something that you've done most likely that has some relevance into your baseline that you take into that new experience. And the closer that is, the more impact it can have. I mean, sport itself you can expand on, right? And if you're really good at baseball, that's going to translate to a bunch of different sports. So the direct one I can draw there is that the twisting motion in baseball, you can take that directly to martial arts for kicks, for instance, or even punches.
Mm.
It comes from the power comes from the core and twisting, and then so it's a direct translation. Would you say?
Gotcha. So what you're saying is that those new experiences prepare you for other experiences as well. You can almost pick up that principle and apply it somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so then, if I dovetail that into the decision making, like most people are concerned about, what do I want in my business or my life? I'm not sure what it is that I want. I will always share with them, it's more important that you make a decision than the decision that you make. And it's partly because of that situation. Whatever area you decide to dive into, whatever path you decide to commit down to, you're going to get a bunch of experiences from that. And if you're committed and it's big enough, it's not going to be throwaway work.
Yeah, you've said that line before about making a decision. It's not about the actual decision; it's just about making it. But this allows me to understand it in a new way because it's delivering you experience that you'll have from then on to apply to other future scenarios. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, right. So I've talked about with my sports martial arts, and they're a good proxy for a lot of these things. I have girls, right, and my girls dance. I wouldn't pick that. My preference is martial arts, but my preferences are different, and that's okay. Right? But it still provides a lot of the same experiences that martial arts might. And I might say that about really any sport. There's a lot that you can take from sports that are available in lots of different sports. So, which one should I pick? Well, the one that appeals to you the most. Not, and it could be one that appeals to you head and shoulders above the others, or it could just be this one appeals to me as a 10.5, and this one appeals to me as a 10.1. Take the 10.5. I can't see much differentiation in those ones. Or I've got a 1 and I've got a 1.2. Take the 1.2. Just something, because you can build on that experience. But and so how people might say, yeah, but in that scenario is that they've taken something and then they've just played around with it. Like they've dipped their toe in rather than diving in. And because they've dipped their toe in, they haven't got much experience. It is throwaway time. There's not much value in it because they haven't gone all in. So that's how you might not have experienced that, because that you made the mistake of not being all in, not
Yeah.
actually making the decision, playing without. Now, playing for playing sake is also useful, right? Because that's also experienced on how you play. So it depends on what your starting point is,
Right.
and that's all relative as well, because starting point can be different depending on what you spent time doing before versus what you spend time doing now. You could be brand new at something, but you could be very experienced somewhere else.
So if we tie this back to routine or showing up, so are we saying that there's unique value today just because we've scheduled this at a different time for the fact that it's giving us a new experience that we may apply in future endeavors?
Totally, at a nuance level or at a big level, like at something that's really different. Like it could be just like a big thing might be earlier in the day, I'm less tired than later on in the day. Later in the day, I tend to be more pondering, or in the morning, I tend to be more creative and react faster, or it could be the other way around, depending on what your personal preferences are. But having that viewpoint is useful, more awareness.
Yeah. I want to pick up on that thread about the creativity because that was one of the things in my prep for today's conversation that I wanted to maybe explore how to optimize for creativity. And I think we've talked in past episodes about carving out time or having strategy days. And this is something new for me here as we talk through this, is that maybe a way to flex the creativity muscle is to get out of our comfort zones and schedule something that we normally schedule at a certain part of the day at a different part of the day. And then I wonder how our creativity muscle is being exercised right now. And then if I have a gap after our recording, which I happen to have today, how I might use that momentum of creativity for something else that I might be able to gain value from. So I'm just thinking through that right now. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Mm-hmm. I said to someone this morning that, hey, you've got time to do this. He's like, yeah, I've got time. I said, but be careful with how that time feels and looks, because if you've got 2 hours a day across the working week, that's 10 hours of time you've got to invest in working in your business. But that's not the same as 2 5-hour slots,
Hmm.
because depending on what work it is, it takes a while to bed into working in that way, to get in the zone. And you shifting in and out of those things give costs time. And again, so that could be something else that is what we're doing right now could be take away from our day. But you got to weigh the everything has a cause and effect, right? It's like there's always something equal and opposite reaction. There's always something happening. So if you're going to get something that's better, there's going to be some sort of downside. There's going to be some sort of trade. Everything's a trade. It's just being aware of what the trade is and deciding if it's something you want to trade.
Trade is an opportunity cost.
Yeah. What opportunity am I taking, and what opportunity am I trading away? And which one do I prefer, and what do they mean for the future? What's the immediate, secondary, and tertiary level consequences of what I'm doing?
Hmm.
Then you might say it's a bit much to think about all of those things for everything you're doing all the time. It's like, yeah, could be. Right. Depends. It depends what you're doing, what you're going after, like what's important for you.
Yeah, and you can get good at processing that equation pretty quickly.
That's a great point. Yeah, it seems like anything, right? It seems like a lot until you've done it once or twice. You're like, oh, that was crazy easy that time. I didn't even think about
Right.
it. It happened.
I take it you've probably heard of the term deep work. You're familiar with deep work?
Yeah, I think it was popularized by Cal Newport, who wrote a book on that, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken.
I just googled it real quick and I found a definition that sounds good. It says professional activity performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. And to me, that means like deep work, meaning you almost need that time carved out so that in hour 2 or hour 3 or hour 4 is when some of those breakthroughs come through after executing on hour 1 and hour 2. And so the deep part of the deep work is sticking with something for an extended period of time such that you'll be so immersed in it that new creative things will come up as you're working on it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the genesis of how I talk about my three levels of reflection. That reflection page, you can't just straight go there. You have to be in the deep work. You have to go through the layers. In order to get 100 feet deep in the water, you've got to go 10, 20, 30. You have to go through each one to get there. Or, or in an elevator, right? You can't just go from the 10th floor to the bottom floor. You've got to go 9, 8, 7. So you've got to go through them all. And they take as long as they take. You can't just go to the bottom.
Remind us again what the three levels are again.
So first is execution, just like doing. First level, levels of reflection, just doing. And then the next one is rest. Right? So doing is just driving your car along the road, going as fast as you can without getting a ticket or the chance of getting pulled over. Most achievers are at, right? Sometimes going a bit over, but like being okay with it. Rest is pulling off the side of the road because your car's running out of fuel or about to run out of fuel. You've run out of fuel. You need a bathroom stop. And then most of the time we just get straight back in the car and carrying on. the third level is reflection. Excuse me, I should say these are three levels of energy. So execution, rest, and the third is the reflection. And the reflection is taking some time, having a cup of coffee, sitting down, looking out at the road and going, am I still going on the right route to where I want to go here? Hang on, where am I even going? Oh, why do I want to go on this journey? And the answers all might be just confirm exactly what you're doing, and that's totally fine. But at least you know, and you've got more conviction to get back on the road, do it in the right way. You're not on autopilot, but you might find that there's a better route. But you might find that you've learned something on the journey, which now negates the need to complete the whole journey. You can't do that without having that reflection piece, which is the deep work of going through those different stages in order to get to that spot.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where you're going with that. So are you doing all three of those three levels of learning? I'm sorry, three layers of energy during a deep work session? There's activity and execution, there's rest, and there's also reflection during that one period of time.
I'd suggest for high achievers that the default is the execution, like I'm doing the thing. So for most people, for most high achievers, that's just continuing to work hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you could also look like as the comfort zone, just doing the things in front of you, like your life is just coming at you. You're doing the things based on the flywheel you've already built. But you've got to then rest to get to the reflection. So this is the most simplistic way of doing it. But there might be like it's like coming down through the gears in your car. You might go from sixth to fifth to fifth to fourth to third. If you go from from sixth to first, like that's not going to work. So you've got to come down through the gears, and so you need to rest before you can reflect. You've actually got to redo, because if you're in just an execution, you're likely to just run yourself ragged. You haven't got the capacity for creativity and reflection. So you got to rest first, come down through the layers, through the gears to get to a point where you can get that, access the creativity.
So would you recommend an extended session of deep work, for example, to create something or to work on the business? And if so, is there something necessary after the deep work? Does rest need to be penciled in after that, or like what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think obviously depends on where you want to get to, like overall what you want to get to, but even that you need space and deep work just to figure out where you want to get to, right? And so then what is the outcome of that deep work? The more time that you spend after the fact, the more that it's going to bed in, the more certainty you're going to get, and then you want to make sure you put that into an action. Otherwise, it's just going to it could be really good deep work, but if you're not, you need to back to a decision, decide to do something with it. Otherwise, it's going to, no matter how helpful it was for you, it's going to ruminate. Even if it gives you like a next level of certainty, a lot of emotional juice, like then you're going to want to put it into action anyway. Because you're like, oh, I've got to go do that thing now. I've just figured it out. Defining that specific action step to start the process, create a new momentum, is really important, because it could be the best thing in the world. If you don't do anything about it, it's going to ultimately dissipate in your mind. It's going to just disappear.
So in summary, getting out of a routine is a way to get the creative energies flowing, and a way to really enhance the creative energies is perhaps a deep workspace to where you're creating something utterly new because you're so far immersed in it that you're coming up with new ways to achieve. And then just being mindful of those three levels of energy: rest, reflection, execution.
Totally.
Anything else you'd add to that?
No, just the awareness. Just know where you are. Be okay with, and don't judge it. And that's important as well. Because as soon as you judge it, then like you can't use it.
Right.
Or I should say, as soon as you've judged it, that's the use that you've used it. That's the use that you've given it, and now it's not useful anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, the awareness of it, I think, will be my takeaway today. Thank you, Coach. See you next time.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction, so please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.